Welcome to Phantom Hours, where silence has a voice and darkness tells stories long forgotten. These tales aren't fiction, they're warnings. Some who heard them never returned to tell their side. If you dare to listen, turn off the lights, lock your doors, and prepare yourself. Because in the Phantom Hours, fear is your only companion. Subscribe now, like the video if your heart can handle it, and share it before it's too late. Let the horror begin. The road that remembers you. It was supposed to be a simple road trip. Daniel and Sarah, young couple, just married, excited for their honeymoon. They left the city at 5 p.m., driving toward the mountains. Their GPS lost signal around Highway 19. They were never supposed to take that turn. But they did, and vanished for 3 whole days. The return. 3 days later, they came back. Just walked into a gas station, clothes torn, eyes hollow, pale like ghosts. The police were called, but they had no memory of where they had been. Sarah kept repeating, "We shouldn't have looked behind." Daniel just cried. The road no one finds. Investigators tried to retrace their steps, but the turn they took, it didn't exist on any map. Locals said that area was cursed. Decades ago, buses full of passengers went missing near the same region. All heading toward the same unknown road, none returned until now. Daniel's condition. Back home, Daniel changed. He would wake up in the middle of the night, stand by the window, and whisper, "It's still out there." Sarah tried comforting him, but he'd flinch at her touch. Once he screamed, "You're not Sarah!" He started sleeping in the basement with the lights off. Sarah's shadow. Sarah started acting odd, too. She'd draw maps, strange winding roads. She said she could hear the turns. Once, she was found outside, barefoot, at 2 a.m., standing in the middle of the road, eyes closed. When asked what she was doing, listening for the cars that never came back. The footage. A dash cam was recovered from their car. The footage showed something horrifying. They were driving in circles, over and over. But every time the landscape changed slightly. Trees got closer to the road. Street signs melted. Voices came through the radio, in their own voices, but saying different things. One time, Daniel's voice said, "Sarah, I think we're already dead." The warning sign. In one frame of the video, barely visible, there was a signboard on the side of the road, written in blood-like red, "This road remembers. This road rewrites." The next frame, the sign was gone. Sarah's voice whispered, We're not driving anymore, Danny. We're being driven. The realization. A paranormal expert examined the case. He said Highway 19 was a myth, a phantom road. It appears only to those who doubt their reality or who are running from something. Once you enter, it scans your soul and rewrites your identity. Some never return, some do, but changed. The final scene. Weeks later, Daniel went missing again. Sarah was found standing in the middle of their living room, covered in black oil. Smiling, she simply said, "The road wants me back." Then she vanished. No footsteps, no doors opened, just the faint sound of tires screeching from inside the walls. Epilogue. The new victim. Months passed. The video went viral. Some called it fake, but one TikToker went viral for finding the road. He went missing too. And last week, someone uploaded a new dash cam clip on his account. The couple in the front seat? Daniel and Sarah, except they were smiling now, eyes completely black, and the road ahead was endless. The lake that whispers back. In the quiet town of Darrow Hill, hidden behind rusting fences and dense woods, there lies a lake. No name, no signs, just called the lake by the locals. People say it whispers at night. And once you hear your name in the water, you don't come back the same. The missing swimmers. Over the past 10 years, 11 people have gone missing at the lake. All young. All went for a late night swim. No bodies were ever found. Only clothes on the edge and ripples in still water. Locals stopped going near it after dark. Jenny's dare. Jenny was 22. A skeptic. A student of marine biology. She heard about the haunted lake and laughed. To prove it wrong, she planned to swim across it one night. Just her, a GoPro, and live stream. Her friends tried to stop her, but she posted, "Ghost Lake? Nah, just wet air and an imagination." The live stream. At 11:41 p.m., she went live. Dark waters, moon above, silent trees. She laughed as she stepped in, but around 5 minutes in, she paused, tilted her head, and whispered, "Did someone just call me?" Comments flooded, "Stop joking! What was that voice?" Then she dove underwater and didn't come back up. The footage. Her stream continued for 3 hours, just rippling water. But something was strange. The water looked like it was breathing. Zooming in, saw tiny faces in the waves, not clear, but screaming. The aftermath. Search parties arrived the next day. Nothing found. But something was left behind. Her GoPro, placed neatly on a rock, still recording. The last thing it captured, a voice, her own voice, whispering, "It's not a lake, it's a mouth." The old man's story. A 90-year-old man came forward. He claimed to have seen it happen in the 60s, too. Back then, his brother swam across the same lake. Never came back. He said the lake is alive. It remembers every soul. And it calls them back, over and over. The curse. Folklore says the lake was once a prison site. Hundreds were executed and dumped there. Their souls never left. Now they call out, mimicking voices of loved ones. And if you answer back, you belong to the lake forever. Epilogue. Jenny returns. 3 weeks later, a hiker saw someone near the lake. A girl, wet hair, blank stare, silent, looked just like Jenny. He called the police, but when they came, she was gone. Only a message carved into the nearest tree. I didn't drown. I listened too long. The girl who drew death. In a sleepy village in Romania, a 9-year-old girl named Mira was known for her strange gift. She would draw pictures, but not flowers, not butterflies. She drew death, and every drawing she made would come true. The first drawing. Her first strange drawing was of a neighbor, a man with a snake around his neck. 2 days later, that man died from a heart attack, found with his pet python strangling his body. People said, it's just a coincidence. But Mira kept drawing. The school fire. One day she drew her school in flames. The next week, lightning struck the school's roof. Fire spread across 2 classrooms. No children were hurt, but the building was just like her sketch. The psychiatrist. Mira was taken to a child psychiatrist named Dr. Elena. She asked, "Why do you draw these things?" Mira replied quietly, "I don't draw what I want. I draw what he shows me." "Who's he?" Mira looked out the window and whispered, "The man in the corner with no eyes." The drawing room. At night, Mira would sit alone in a candlelit room. She'd draw frantically, like in a trance. Once, her mother peeked inside and saw her sketching her own mother's body in a casket. She screamed. 2 days later, her mother died in a car crash. the hospital incident. After losing her parents, Mira was put in a children's ward. Cameras were placed in her room. One night, nurses saw her drawing something violently, eyes wide open but unblinking. She drew the hospital corridor, filled with blood. At 3:33 a.m., the nurse on night duty had a heart attack in that same corridor. The investigation. A group of paranormal researchers tried to investigate Mira. They asked her to draw them. She drew them standing in a circle, burning. They laughed it off. 3 months later, during a research trip in Siberia, their camp caught fire from a faulty heater. None survived. The final drawing. One evening, Mira stopped speaking. She sat with a single sheet of paper and began her final drawing. She drew herself, alone, eyes black, and behind her, a tall man with no face reaching out. That night, she vanished. The only thing found was her sketch, still wet with ink. Epilogue: The Cursed Sketchbook. Years later, Mira's sketchbook was found in an old attic. It said, "If you open it, the next drawing will be about you, and what you'll see is how you'll die." People say, never look at her drawings. They don't just show death, they bring it. Whispers Under the Floor. The House That Ate People. Jacob Harris, a 28-year-old freelance writer, inherited a long-abandoned farmhouse from his late uncle. It sat isolated on the edge of a forgotten town in Arkansas. No internet, no phone signal, no neighbors for miles. Locals warned him, "That house don't got no foundation. It has a mouth underneath." Jacob ignored the tales. For a writer, it was the perfect retreat. Quiet, undisturbed, and cheap. He moved in. At exactly 2:46 a.m., Jacob was jolted awake by a scratching sound beneath the wooden floor. Not rats, not creaking pipes, but deliberate. Then faintly, the voice of a child whispered, "I'm still here." Jacob froze, but by the time he got up and checked, silence had returned. The scratches multiply. On the second night, the scratches returned, louder, closer. Then came the whispers. Not one voice. Dozens. "You hear us now." He lied. He left us here. Jacob tore up part of the wooden floor. Beneath was a narrow crawl space, and further below, another wooden layer, like a second floor, a hidden one. He climbed down. Inside the hidden level, the air was damp and freezing. The walls were carved with scratch marks and cryptic messages. One every decade. Feed us. His blood wasn't enough. And then Jacob found a human jawbone wrapped in what looked like children's pajamas. A history of disappearances. Jacob visited the local library the next morning. An old librarian stared at him like she'd seen a ghost. That house. Your uncle boarded up the floor after 1969. Never spoke again. Before him, a family of 5 vanished. And before that, a pastor. The house had a pattern. Every 10 years, someone disappeared. Jacob had arrived in 1999. The crawling madness. Back in the house, Jacob installed cameras. But every night, at exactly 2:46 a.m., the tapes showed only distorted static and sounds of laughter, screaming, and breathing. Heavy, slow breathing, as if something below the floor was alive. He returned to the hidden floor. In the corner, a patch of dirt had been dug away, revealing a metal trapdoor shaped like a giant mouth. Inscribed above it, "Speak to be eaten." Jacob whispered, "I want the truth." The door opened. He stepped inside, a pitch-black tunnel lined with walls of moving flesh. Faces stretched out, whispering, "He fed us. You feed us now. We don't die, we just whisper." Jacob tried to scream, but his voice was stolen. The camera dropped to the ground. Weeks later, Jacob's equipment was found by hikers. The last footage? A low hum, a dark room, and then a faint whisper, "Next in 2009. Then the screen went black. The house still stands, boarded shut, overgrown. Every 10 years, someone enters, a wanderer, a drifter, a fool. But every time, just before the next decade begins, locals say they hear voices under the earth whispering, "We're hungry again." The man who came back wrong. A 34-year-old man named Aaron Bell died in a hit-and-run accident on March 14, 2013. He was declared legally dead at 7:04 p.m. At 2:19 a.m. the next morning, he knocked on his apartment door. His roommate, Chris, opened it, and there stood Aaron, alive, breathing, smiling strangely. "Hey man, I forgot my keys." "He shouldn't be alive." Chris froze. He had identified the body himself. There was no doubt. Aaron had died. But here he was, same face, same voice. Only one thing was off. His eyes. They didn't blink. Not once. Something isn't right. Over the next few days, Aaron resumed life as if nothing happened. He went to work, ate his usual cereal, even told the same jokes. But at night, Chris would wake up to the sound of whispers from Aaron's room. He once peeked through the crack. Aaron was talking to the wall, and the wall was whispering back. The video footage. Chris checked their building's hallway cameras to see how Aaron got back that night. The footage at 2:19 a.m., Aaron appears out of nowhere. Not walking in, not climbing stairs, it just appears, frame by frame. Worse, his reflection in the glass door didn't match his movements. It smiled before he did. A different body. Chris noticed more changes. Aaron's skin began to look too smooth, like plastic. He never ate in front of anyone anymore. His voice echoed slightly even without walls. One night, Chris found blood-stained towels in the bathroom. Inside the bin, strips of skin that didn't look human. The confession. Terrified, Chris confronted him. Aaron stared for a long time and then said softly, "I tried to come back the right way, but the door only opens for what's not supposed to return. I brought something with me." Chris backed away. Aaron smiled. "It's wearing me." The transformation. That night, Aaron's body began to change. His spine stretched, arms lengthened unnaturally, his jaw unhinged like a snake's. From inside his throat, a second face blinked. Upside down, it whispered, "You let it in. You invited it by opening the door." The police report. Chris fled and called the police. By the time they arrived, the apartment was empty. No Aaron, no blood, no evidence. Just the words "thank you" carved into the kitchen tiles. Epilogue. A new man. A few weeks later, across town, a new tenant named A. Bell signed a lease in a different apartment block. Same smile, same unblinking eyes, but this time there were two shadows behind him. The doll behind the mirror. Emily was 6 years old, sweet, shy, and quiet. Her parents were always busy. They had just moved to a new town, and Emily had no friends. One day, while exploring the attic, she found something strange. A glass doll inside an old wooden box. Its eyes were clear, too clear, almost like they could blink. She brought it downstairs, smiling. "Mommy, can I keep her?" Her mom said yes. That was their first mistake. The night whispers. That night, Emily placed the doll on her bedside table. In the dark, the doll shimmered under the moonlight. As Emily closed her eyes, she heard it, a soft whisper. "Emily, are you lonely?" She sat up, confused. "Who's there?" Silence. The doll's head was turned, facing her now. The imaginary friend. Over the next few days, Emily changed. She stopped talking to her parents. She whispered more and more to the doll. At dinner she said, "Lily says you don't like me. Lily says you'll leave too." They laughed it off. Kids have imaginary friends, but this imaginary friend was very real. The mirror games. Emily's mom started noticing things. Mirrors in the house fogging up, even when there was no heat. Fingerprints on the inside. Once, while brushing her teeth, the mom glanced in the mirror and saw Emily in the hallway, smiling, but when she turned around, no one was there. Emily was asleep in bed. Rules from Lily. Emily started drawing pictures. A house on fire, a crying woman, a girl in a black dress holding hands with a glass doll, and rules. 1. Don't cover Lily with cloth. 2. Don't put Lily in the closet. 3. Don't take Lily away. And at the bottom, or Mommy will cry forever. The first accident. One morning, Emily's dad tripped down the stairs. He swore someone pushed him. A tiny handprint was on the back of his shirt, burned in, red, small. Emily? She just giggled and said, "Lily doesn't like you. She said you were mean in another life." That night, he threw the doll into the trash. By morning, it was back on the table. The screaming mirror. The mother tried to record Emily while she played alone. In the video, Emily sits. The doll sits across. The audio picks up Emily. "Why are you angry, Lily?" Emily. "No, I won't tell them." Emily, softly crying. Then a high-pitched scream, not from Emily, from the mirror behind her. The truth about Lily. The mother researched. That attic used to belong to a girl named Lillian Moore, 80 years ago. She was locked up for behavioral issues. She died in the mirror room, holding her doll. No one knows how the mirror ended up in this house. The final night. The mom tried taking the doll away. Emily screamed, scratched, bit her. She said, "Lily said you'll burn like the others." The mirror shattered that night. The mother ran to Emily's room and froze. The entire wall was glass now, not a mirror. Glass, like the doll, inside it. A girl stared back, not Emily, but Lily, and in Emily's bed was the doll with Emily's eyes. Epilogue. The house was abandoned. No sign of Emily, only a doll found on the floor, smiling, and a new rule scratched into the wall. Never ignore a lonely child, or she'll find someone who won't. The stream that should never have happened. Jared was a struggling streamer. He wasn't famous, didn't have many viewers, but one night he decided to do something bold. He would stream 24 hours straight, documenting everything, even sleep. He thought, maybe I'll finally go viral. He did, but not for the reasons he hoped. Day stream, normal. Daytime was boring. He cooked, played games, cracked a few jokes, got a few viewers, 12 at most. People liked his realness. Comments started coming in, "You're chill, bro. Keep it going." Everything seemed fine until night fell. Night cam setup. He set up a cam in his room for sleep streaming. Lights off, mic on, chat open. He wore his sleeping mask and said, "Good night, world." Camera rolled. And then the chat exploded. The first movement. 10 minutes into sleep, chat messages started flooding in. "Yo, who just walked past the door? Wait, was that your mom? Jared, wake up!" But Jared was alone. He lived in a studio apartment. Clip replayed. A viewer clipped the moment. The door closed, then slowly opened inch by inch. A hand gripped the frame, thin, pale, twitching. Something walked by, but not in full view. Morning confusion. Jared woke up fresh, checked the chat, hundreds of messages. He watched the clip. His face turned pale. No one could be there. He locked the door on stream before sleeping. The shadow returns. He decided to go on with the stream. Maybe it was a prank. But the second night, the figure returned. This time, it stood behind the curtain, barely visible. Viewers started screen capping. "Bro, there's a face. That ain't no prank." The girl in white. On night 3, Jared left the stream running, went to the kitchen. He was gone for 4 minutes. When he returned, the viewers were gone. Chat dead. He watched the VOD. While he was out, the camera glitched, and then it shifted, even though it was fixed. A girl in white appeared on screen, hair covering her face, standing behind his desk, motionless. She stared directly at the lens. The call. One viewer recorded the whole thing and DM'd Jared, "Call the cops." something seriously wrong with your place." Jared laughed it off, until he noticed something even worse. The file. In his recording folder, the night stream had a second file, one he didn't create. It was named Do Not Delete.mp4. He opened it. It was not from his camera. It was from a different angle. Someone was filming him from under his bed. He could see his feet, his breathing, and something moving beside the bed. He tried to end it. Jared ended the stream, deleted all clips, turned off all equipment. But the next morning, he woke up to a notification. New stream uploaded live, Jared's Night 4. He never uploaded it. Oh, it's an attack. The viewers. Now, viewers were increasing. Not his followers, but strange accounts. Usernames like No Way Yes Here, Watcher 42, Behind You Live. Their comments. Let her finish. Almost done. She likes you. The final stream. He tried leaving the apartment, locked himself out. His phone died. When he returned, his PC was on, streaming again. Camera facing the closet. A hand reached out, not human. Gray, thin, shaking. Then the screen cut to black. Epilogue. Jared's channel was reported missing 2 days later. Police entered his apartment. No sign of him. Only the stream still running, playing a loop of him sleeping. But in the background, the girl in white stood in the doorway, smiling, waiting for her next streamer. The girl behind the door. Tom was a night security guard at a closed-down girls' boarding school. The school had been shut for years, abandoned after a fire took 2 lives. His job? Walk the halls, check the cameras, and report anything unusual. He had no idea what unusual really meant. Until that night. His shift started at 10 p.m. The school was quiet. Old hallways, creaking doors, and cold air. The security room had 10 monitors, one for each corridor, classroom, and hallway. At first, everything was still. Then at 1:43 a.m., camera 6 blinked. Okay. The first glitch. Tom leaned in. Camera 6 showed something odd. The door of room 12 was open. That door had been locked for years. He checked it himself earlier. It didn't even have a handle anymore. But now, it stood wide open. The first sighting. Tom grabbed his flashlight and walked toward room 12. The hallway was freezing. As he turned the corner, he saw her. A girl, maybe 12 years old, wearing an old school uniform, standing behind the open door. She stared at him. He blinked. She was gone. Digging the past, back in the office, he searched old files. Room 12 had once belonged to Clara, a student who died in the fire. The report said, body not recovered fully, presumed perished. But Tom noticed something strange. The report was dated one day before the fire. How was that possible? Every night, the next night, room 12's door was open again. He didn't go. He watched through the camera. At 2:01 a.m., the girl returned. She stood behind the door, staring directly into the camera. Then she smiled. The feed cut out. Voices. By the third night, Tom was hearing whispers coming from room 12. He watches. He lied. He burned us. He turned the sound monitor off. It kept whispering. The hallway scratches. That same night, he found scratch marks on the hallway walls, long, ragged, like claws dragged across paint. Fresh. There were no animals, no students, just Tom and her. The ghost in the monitor. On the fifth night, Tom saw something that broke him. Camera 6 showed Clara standing not behind the door, but inside the security room. Right behind him, he turned around, nothing there, but the monitor still showed her standing, smiling. His obsession. Tom stopped going home. He read every record about the fire. The cause had never been confirmed, but a maintenance worker, Tom's father, was mentioned as a suspect. The file said he was seen arguing with Clara the day before. The truth unfolds. That night, Clara whispered through the speakers, "He locked me in. He said I'd be safe. Then he left me." Tom's hands trembled. His father had always been quiet about that school. Now, Tom knew why. The final night. Tom entered room 12 with a crowbar, dust, burned walls, black marks, and then, in the corner, a small burnt bed. Above it, carved into the wall. Liar! The door slammed shut behind him. Morning. When his co-worker arrived at 6 a.m., the building was silent. They found the security room empty. On the camera feeds, every screen showed one image. Tom, standing behind the door in room 12, still, pale, smiling. The man who lived in the walls. They moved into the house on a rainy Thursday. Emily and Josh, a young couple looking for a fresh start in a quiet town. The house was old, but charming. A steal for the price, but there was a reason it was so cheap, and they were about to find out why. The first signs. The first night was peaceful, but the second, Emily swore she heard breathing behind the walls. Josh laughed it off. It's just the pipes. But it wasn't the pipes. The sound continued, low, slow, rhythmic breathing coming from the living room wall. Unexplained things. Soon, things started disappearing. Emily's earrings, Josh's keys, even food from the fridge. They blamed each other at first. Then one night, Emily found her missing ring inside the attic, placed neatly on a dusty wooden table, and as if someone had been living there. They had never even opened the attic before. The shadows. Josh set up a motion camera in the hallway. Next morning, they checked the footage. At 3:17 a.m., a tall figure crept out from behind a bookcase. It stood still for 2 minutes, watching the bedroom door, then slowly slipped back into the wall. Josh went pale. That's not possible. The police. They called the cops. Officer came, searched the house, the attic, the crawl space. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. Probably a prank, they said. The couple installed locks, alarms, even nailed the bookcase to the wall. They thought it was over. Or the return. But it wasn't. Emily began waking up with bruises on her arms. Once, she found a knife placed on her pillow. Josh stopped sleeping altogether. Then one night, Josh saw it. a face, peeking through the vents, eyes wide, unblinking. The face smiled, then vanished. The discovery. Josh ripped the vents open. Behind them, a narrow tunnel, carved inside the walls. A foul stench wafted out, rotting food, mold, something else. He followed the tunnel with a flashlight. What he found inside made him scream. The room in the walls. There was a hidden crawl space room covered in filth. Mattress, rotting blankets, candles, and dozens of photos of Josh and Emily. Photos taken while they were sleeping. Photos taken from inside the walls. In the corner, a journal. They think they own this house, but I was here first. I've always been here. The escape. They packed and left immediately. The police searched again. This time, they found him. A man, pale, thin, feral, hiding inside the walls. He had been living there for over 12 years, a former tenant. The house had once belonged to his grandmother. When she died, he never left. He just moved into the walls and watched. Aftermath. Josh and Emily never returned. The house was sold again, then again, each time for cheaper. Now it sits abandoned, still quiet, but if you stand close enough to the walls, you might hear breathing. The hotel room that shouldn't exist. It was supposed to be a normal business trip. Michael, a mid-level sales executive, was traveling through a remote town in Arizona when his car broke down late at night. The sun had long vanished, and all he could see were the flickering streetlights and closed shops on the empty road. He pulled out his phone. No signal. Great. Then he spotted a dim neon sign ahead through the fog. The Hollow Pines Motel. Vacancy. Arrival. Michael entered the small reception. It smelled of bleach and mold. Behind the dusty counter sat an old man with a face that looked like it hadn't smiled in decades. Just one night, Michael said. The man nodded slowly. Only one room left. Room 212. He handed him an actual metal key. No card. Weird. Michael looked at the room map on the wall. Room 212 wasn't listed. The numbers ended at 211. Room 212? Michael asked. The man just stared. Second floor, end of the hallway, you'll see it. The room. Climbing the creaky stairs, Michael walked through the dim hallway. Each room had a number. 201, 202, until 211. Then, a wall. But as he approached, a faint outline of a door began to appear in the wall, like the shadows themselves were folding to reveal it. The door read 212, faintly scratched in. Chills ran down Michael's spine. He turned the key. The door opened effortlessly. Inside room 212 was cold. The air was unnaturally still. The walls were painted a sickly green. The bed looked untouched for decades. There was an old TV in the corner. It flickered on by itself. No channels, just static. Michael tried to leave, but the door wouldn't open. Panic surged. Then the TV started making voices, mumbling, then screaming. He unplugged it, still screaming. The mirror. On the wall, a tall mirror stood, but it didn't reflect Michael. It showed a different version of the room, darker, dirtier, covered in blood splatters. And in that mirror world, a figure stood behind him. He spun around. Nothing. When he looked back, his own reflection was gone. The nightmare. Michael started banging on the door, screaming. He called out the window. No one. Then, from under the bed, a cold hand gripped his ankle. He fell. Dragged halfway under, he kicked and screamed. The hand let go, not before leaving a deep, frost-bitten mark on his leg. Morning. When Michael awoke, it was daylight. Room 212 looked normal, clean, calm. He rushed downstairs to the reception. There was a new lady at the counter. "I was in room 212. What the hell is that place?" he shouted. She blinked. "Sir, there is no room 212. This motel only has 11 rooms. You were in 207. He ran back upstairs. The door to room 212 was gone. A solid wall stood where it once was. Ending. Michael never returned to that town. But months later, he received a package at home. No return address. Inside was an old metal key with the number 212 engraved. See you soon.